Thanks, Hannah. You're beautiful. I just want to start by saying, like, I've had the best time with you guys, and I wanted to thank all the individual women that I've got to have a conversation with, and you've opened up space and shared with me parts of your journey at the moment. And I want to say thank you for doing that, for being, for allowing me into that space. But what it says to me is that this room is an incredible well. There has been some wells dug in this place and this community, that you are actually a group of women that know how to journey through tough stuff. And so that's pretty amazing. And it's what was, I guess, the thread, even from the conversations that I've had since yesterday. I've been here with you guys probably close to 24 hours. The thread through the conversations has been, there's some tough stuff I've gone through, and I'm even journeying through right now. But I know God's got this. And that's a pretty powerful place to be. So I want to say thank you. Thank you for opening up bits of yourself. Because I passionately believe as women, and from my whole journey, I believe that we need to be more vulnerable with each other. I think that it can be a bit, sometimes the church community, we can be a bit stiff upper-lipped with how well life is. And we've got this because we have got this. We know that, right? But it doesn't mean that sometimes it's not incredibly tough or incredibly painful. And I don't think we do each other any favours when we pretend life is amazing. We know, I preface everything with, I know God is amazing, but at this moment, it's really hard. And I think it's okay if seasons are hard, but don't do a hard season alone. Yeah. Just don't do it. We're not called to do it alone. We need each other. Yeah. And it doesn't mean you have to tell everybody all your personal business, but it's okay and it's all right to say, I'm actually in a hard spot. Can you just lift me up in prayer? Pray for me now, because I believe in that, and we need to action our faith and pray for each other. But pray for me this week. Think about me. And maybe check in with me this week. I feel like I need to check in. And that's okay. Don't feel weak by asking for help. We are the body of Christ, and we need to be that for each other. And so in times in my life where I feel alone, I feel incredibly challenged because I've allowed myself to get into a space where I haven't let anybody in. It's too easy to go, they just don't care. Yeah, they do. And I find that the moments that I actually do open up to somebody, people will move heaven and earth to support me. And I know they will for you too. Tonight, we're taking a little bit of a different twist because I just wanted to share. I thought it would be fun, like climbing mountains. Who loves hiking? Put your hand up if you're a hiker. God bless you. God, that was amazing. Oh, I love hiking. Not really, but I've got to like it, right? But I just thought I'm going to share that I went on this crazy adventure. I seem to go on a lot of those actually. I'm not surprised, but I want to talk about sometimes a catalyst, something that can happen, it can be good or bad, can actually change your whole direction in life. And it can propel you into quite an incredible season if you let it. And I remember when I was 48, so that's 8 years ago. Gosh, where does the time go? We were back in Australia for a season, and I remember sitting around by the pool. It was a beautiful Queensland summer day, and Russell had been talking about we needed to raise money for a school that we were building and adding more classrooms to in a BIM. And we need to raise $100,000. And I was like, what? Okay, how are we going to do this? And then, I don't know where the idea came from, but I said, why don't you do a hiking thing and climb Kilimanjaro? Like, I don't even know where that came from. But Kilimanjaro, if you don't know geographically, is in Tanzania. And it's the highest freestanding mountain in the world. So it's 19,500 feet. And it starts off in a tropical climate and you end in an ice glacier. It's quite spectacular to look at. And I said, you should get a group of climbers together, because Russ has always been super fit. He's always taken his health very seriously. I, however, have loved to watch from the sidelines. And, I encourage him. He should be healthy, shouldn't he? So it's awesome. I said, you, get some men and climb a mountain. And then I was researching it, and I'd been doing this for about a week or two, and I was sitting around the pool and I was going, babe, it looks amazing. Like, it looks like it would be epic. And then he said something to me. He was a very brave man. He said, well, you could do it too if you change your lifestyle. Well, hell no. What did you just say? And then I got over to, the pure anger of the comment, and was like, it probably took me about 3 days. But it was the catalyst for me. Because Russell wasn't being rude, and he wasn't, challenging me about my lifestyle in the sense of, he's always loved me, whatever shape and size I've been over the years, and I've been up and down through different seasons of my life. And this isn't about weight, okay? Let me preface this. It's not about a weight. I'm not asking us all to go on a diet. It's about a moment in my life that literally changed my life forever. And Russell, he's the only one that could have said something like that to me, and that I went away and pondered it and thought, could I do it? Could I, who's never even climbed a mountain? I've never been a physical person. I've always been active, but I've never been a gym junkie. I've never been a hiker. I've gone to my kids' sports and shouted from the sidelines, probably sitting in a chair. I've not really been an active person. But I started to think, could I climb that mountain? No, that's honestly ridiculous. At 48, we were planning on doing this in 2 years' time. So I thought, maybe I could do it for my 50th. Could I climb that mountain in 2 years' time for my 50th? And again, why do you start these things when you turn 50? I wish I'd done it literally 30 years ago. But in that moment, I thought about it for a couple of days. I was angry, I was hurt, and I was not hurt by what he said, but wow, could I actually do this, or am I setting myself up for failure? And so I want to talk about the lessons I learned climbing Kilimanjaro. And I did it 2 years later. I summited. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. The preparation was hard, but climbing that mountain and summiting was the hardest physical activity I've ever done in my life. But what God did in me spiritually over that journey changed my life. And I'm a different person again in this stage of my life than I have ever been. And I'm a healthier person physically, but spiritually I'm even more healthier, and I'm stronger than I've ever been. And it was another thing that I went, wow, really? Girl, what can't I do? In all seriousness, we put limitations on ourselves all of the time. And if we're prepared to have a moment where someone says something to us and challenges us, and we take that on, what could we do? And so I'm just going to share some lessons I learned from preparing to do that hike and climbing that mountain. Psalm 37:23 says, the steps of the good and righteous, it says man, but we're going to change it to woman. That's okay. It's all right. Righteous women are directed and established by the Lord, and he delights in his ways and blesses his path. And for whether you're climbing a physical mountain or a spiritual mountain, or something is going on in your world that is unexpected and it is hard, you're not even sure if you can make the next 100 meters, let alone get to the top of this thing and get to the other side. again, we are far stronger than we can ever imagine ourselves to be, and we are far more capable than we can ever imagine ourselves to be. But we have to make the adjustments in our lives that we need to make. Way back in 2008, I had tuberculosis, which I caught in Uganda. I've been caring for a 3-month-old little baby. We'd lost his mum to TB, and that was another woman that we literally nursed as she went to be with Jesus. And we took on caring for this little baby in our home, and it was tough. And 6 weeks later, we lost him. We tube fed him, and we did everything we could to help him survive, but we didn't. We lost him. And it was very tough on us. It was tough on my daughter Beck, who helped with the night feeds, just refused to leave this baby's side. And it was tough. And but over that time, a couple of months later, I just was getting sicker and sicker, and I had this pain in my back that wouldn't go away, and I had no energy. And it took about 6 weeks, and I was almost bedridden by that time, and I had this pain in my back that, it was just, and I literally could get up to go to the bathroom and do a wee and come back and lay down. I was sleeping, and it was one of those God moments where there was a doctor from Johns Hopkins University Hospital in America, and she was visiting Uganda, and she was an infectious disease specialist. I'd been to the GP many times, and they've done all the tests, malaria, parasites, all of that sort of stuff. They were questioning TB, did the test, did x-rays, all the rest of it, and he said, yeah, you've got TB. So I started me on medication, and the medication itself was quite brutal, and you've got to be on it a long time to, so I started this medication, and I was 2.5 months into it, and I was getting worse. And so one of our friends said, hey, there's this doctor, why don't you, she'd love to see your tests and give you her opinion. And Russ was like, oh yes, please. And so he drove around my x-rays and my bloods and all of that sort of stuff, and I just had a CAT scan on my spine, and they'd found a pocket of fluid on my spine, and the doctor in Uganda thought I had secondary tuberculosis, which had attached itself to my spine, which in itself is not good, right? But the lady from the States looked at all my tests and my results, and she said to us, you need to get her on a plane back to Australia now. She thought that the build-up of fluid on my spine might actually be cancer, and she wasn't convinced that it was tuberculosis. So Russ contacted our insurance company. Side note, was the first year we actually had finances to get insurance. It's like, isn't God amazing? Like, if that had happened and I didn't have insurance, I wouldn't have been able to get back to Australia. You never go overseas without travel insurance. Learn from our dumb mistakes. But thankfully that year we had it. So anyway, insurance company, they just jumped into action. You can't travel with tuberculosis. Countries don't like you coming into their countries with tuberculosis. My tuberculosis wasn't on my lungs. They didn't know where it was. They just knew it was somewhere. So TB can attach itself to any organ in your body. Didn't know that. Thought it was always on the lungs, but it can hide in other places. So we had to get permission to fly to Dubai, not get off the plane, but then permission to fly into Australia. The insurance company handled all of that, and then they said, do you want a nurse to fly with her, or do you want your husband to fly? So I said, I want my husband, and we had someone looking after our kids. And it was traumatic for everybody. Had to leave the family, get on the plane, get back to Australia, had TB. It was quite a nasty mountain to climb. I had no idea that I was about to go through this experience. I was separated from my family for 4 months. Russ was only allowed to stay in Australia with me for 5 days, and the insurance company flew him back to Uganda, and I had to be on treatment for a year. Some journeys you just don't want to sign up for, right? But over that time I gained a lot of weight. The TB medication was not great for me. So I put on a lot of weight, and I hadn't lost the weight, right? So we're talking a couple of more years down the track, and then my husband says to me, you can do it if you change your lifestyle. But that was a catalyst moment for me, right? And so I just made my mind up. I'm going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to help raise $100,000 to build a school. So we just started a team. We ended up with 10 hikers. Each hiker had to raise $10,000, but over the next 2 years, I started training to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. Remember, I hadn't climbed anything. Okay, we have the highest freestanding mountain in Mount Coolum where I lived. When I was in Australia, it was 300 metres. So I just had to times that by however many to get it to 19,500, and I could do this feat. So I just started. I started exercising every single day. And so my list of things that I learned for my 2-year prep to climb Kilimanjaro, first it was obviously a conversation that changed my life. It challenged me, but I decided, you know what? I don't want to miss out on this experience. I don't want Russ to summit that mountain without me. I want to do it. I want to show my kids and my grandkids that their mum and their nana, she's still got it. So I flicked a switch, I'm going to do it. So sometimes being challenged by somebody you love can be hard, but it's actually what we need to hear. And that's my first lesson I learned, was that I was allowing myself to get into a health hazard for myself that I wanted to turn around. Again, this is not about weight, okay? This is just about my journey. Second point, just start. Don't look at the end game. Like, I researched Kili. Russell did no research, literally arrived on the mountain, he'd done nothing. I researched that thing like every angle I possibly could, and I knew it was going to be hard. I knew it was going to be probably impossible for me to do where I was. But when you're facing a mountain, you just got to start. You don't get anywhere at the bottom. You have to start putting one foot in front of the other. Mountains seem impossible until you're at the top. And then all of that, how did I get here? It literally passes away. And isn't that like when we go through something so challenging, we think we're never going to get there, and then we get through it, and we go, oh, that wasn't that bad. Because it's all about perspective. And so to climb a mountain, you have to start. You literally have to start putting one foot in front of the other and start moving. 3, simple, be consistent. You can't climb a mountain unless, I trained for 2 years. Russell could have done it within 6 weeks because he was quite physically fit. I trained for 2 years. I dropped 26 kilos. Remember, this is not about the weight. And thank goodness I did. I couldn't have got another kilo up that mountain. And I was still over 100 kilos when I climbed that mountain. But I dropped 26 kilos in 2 years from pure determination and consistency. Every day, I'm going to climb that mountain. Getting up every morning, I'm going to climb that mountain. It's impossible, I'm going to climb that mountain. Doing my research, one foot after the other, being consistent. Rome wasn't built in a day. I love that. That just was like a big part of my journey, that whole saying, I'm not going to climb Kilimanjaro this week. I'm not going to climb it next week. It took me 2 years to train, but I am going to climb it. And so when you're determined to face something in your life, whether it's a physical mountain or an issue you're going through, you can do it, you will do it. But how you do it, how you break that thing up, will determine your success or how long it takes. There's a saying in Kenya, pole pole, slowly, slowly. We heard that climbing that mountain. There's a group of incredible nationals, Tanzanians, who accompany you on the hike. And every day you just hear pole pole, pole pole. You can't climb Mount Kilimanjaro quickly. It's an 8-day hike, and most of that it's not the distance, it's the altitude. If you go too quickly, you risk having aneurysm. What do they call those things? That's it, yeah. And so you've got to come down really quickly. So it's slowly, slowly. Sometimes when we're journeying life and we're facing a mountain, we just want to get that thing done, don't we? Nobody wants, I don't want to train for 2 years. But that's how long it took me to get myself physically fit enough to climb this mountain. And then I had to face the mountain, and I had to put that 2 years of training into practice. You know, everything we do every day when we're facing stuff is all training for getting up a mountain, overcoming something. Remember, it's not a big deal until once you're at the top, you look back and you go, what was that? But you've got to literally put one foot in front of the other, slowly, and over time you'll get there. It still seemed impossible to me. Setbacks happen, it's how you respond to them. And that's true in life when we're facing things. We will get setbacks. I had many setbacks over those 2 years that were physically challenging and emotionally. Many times I wanted to give up, but I kept saying, you know what, I can do it. 3 months out from my climb, I was doing a hike, and we were increasing our schedules, and once a week we would do a 28k hike just for endurance, just for a bit of sprinkling on top. You know, I was walking, I think I walked, I don't know how many kilometres a week, you know, sometimes 70 to 100 kilometres a week. And then the Saturday was what we called Endurance Day. I loved Endurance Day. It was like basically 6 or 8 hours of one foot in front of the other, sweat, bit of whinging on Russell's path. God, it was terrible. It's not true, my part. But again, setbacks happen, and I was walking, it was one of our big days. I didn't even notice at the time, but I woke up the next morning and I could barely walk on my right foot. So I went to the doctor and he said, I think you've torn a tendon. And I had an x-ray, yep, torn a tendon. Had to go and see, this is 3 months before the climb. I had been training for 3 months off 2 years to do this hike. And I went and saw my surgeon, orthopedic specialist. He goes, you need to have surgery, you can do it next week. It's about a 3 to 6 month recovery. And I said, oh, no. Stop. I'm climbing Mount Kilimanjaro in 3 months. And he said, no, you're not. And I said, yes, I am. And he said, no, you're not. And I said, yes, I am. My name is Jenny Barton and you've never met me before. But let's get this straight, I'm quite determined. So you do your part, tell me what I've got to do, and I'll do my part. And he looked at me and he said, I do this surgery and the goal within 3 to 6 months is to get that person walking 5 kilometres. That's the goal over 3 to 6 months. And I said, the thing about goals is they can be smashed, right? Again, I'm Jenny Barton and you have never met me, but I will be summiting that mountain. Sometimes the mountains in front of us, we need to speak to them. We don't accept them, we say, hell no, not on my watch. We've been training for these things that come across our paths our whole Christian journey. The women that I've been speaking to the last couple of days, and the stuff that you have journeyed, you have been training for those moments. And so when a setback happens, it's game on. We don't retreat, we don't give up on trying to climb our mountain. We go, you know what, I've been training for this. And we take our stance and we push through. And I had the surgery and it was painful. I was in a boot for 6 weeks, couldn't wait there. That's 6 weeks of my 3 months, right? And then I started training. I did all the right things. I saw the physios. I did everything I needed to do because I don't want to re-injure this. I wanted to summit this mountain. But I was not going to let this setback determine my outcome. I have been training for this. I will summit this mountain and we will raise this money to build the school. Now my supporters would have still given their money for the school, whether I summited or not. That was not the issue for me, but I was going to be on top of that mountain. My next point is have the right people around you. Like if you've got the negative Nelly in me, you don't want her on your team. You don't need somebody telling you, like the surgeon said, do you think you should back it on up a bit? It's actually impossible, but that's okay. Don't worry. You haven't failed. It's going to be okay. You don't want that person on your team. You need people around you that go, okay, we see it, we understand it, but we're going to help you and we're going to stand with you and believe you to get through this. It may seem impossible, but remember, we serve an impossible God. I prayed over this foot. I prayed over this recovery. I had people praying for me. I had our team in Uganda praying for me. But I had to daily, through the pain, push through and keep on track. I had the right people around me. I was just not going to give up. I want to show you this quote. Sir Edmund Hillary. It's not the mountain we conquer, but ourselves. And man, that voice inside your head, that voice inside your head when you are facing a mountain, and when I was climbing that mountain, that was the hardest thing I had to overcome, was actually my own voice in my own head. And that's Kilimanjaro. Isn't she beautiful? Oh, it was beautiful, man. It was hard. Don't do that unless you really need to. I actually talk about doing it for my 60th. Does anyone want to come with me? Okay, stop it. That's just crazy, girls. I wanted to show you a couple of pictures of us actually summiting, or the journey, a couple of pictures up the mountain. So that's our team. There were 10 of us. This is me in the blue. This is a good day. We're all happy. The good thing about team, this was an acclimatisation day. So we were quite high up, but we weren't high enough, so we spent a day up there just acclimatising, and then you come back down. And every one of our team members, you can put the next one up, every one of our, oh, look at that cutie. Oh, he's gorgeous. That's my hot husband. Every one of us, and that's me summiting. Like, this is me 2 years, 3 months after a surgery, and I sent that photo to my surgeon. And literally as soon as I got down, it's the first person I emailed. I was like, yeah, Jenny Barton, she did it! You know, he emailed me straight back. He was so lovely, and he said, I had no doubt. I was like, that was awesome. You can take that down. But there was a moment on that mountain, and I'll never ever forget it. We had got up at midnight. When you summit this thing, it's just ridiculous what you do. You're sleeping on ice, cold, glacier rocks, volcanic. You get up, you take a drug that stops you from a diuretic so that hopefully you don't be one of those ones that got to race down the mountain and something bad happens to you, but that makes you pee, so it's freezing cold, so you lay in bed and you finally get warm, and then an hour later you wake up, but you lay there for another half hour because you know it's going to be freezing to get out of the tent to go to the bathroom, and then you finally can't hold on anymore, you get out, you're freezing, you quickly pee, you climb back in, it takes you half an hour to get warm, and then an hour later you do the whole process again. It is exhausting, horrible, hardest thing I've ever done in my life, but summit night, right? So you walk all day. We've done 14 kilometres that last day. Then we get your rest from 3 p.m, have dinner at 7 p.m, and at midnight, you start the summit. And the goal is that you're on the roof of Kilimanjaro for sunset, and it's supposed to be spectacular. It sounds amazing, doesn't it? Didn't quite happen that way for me. We wake up at 12 o'clock with a hot Milo. I can hear my roomie next door vomiting like you wouldn't believe. We thought she's not even going to get out of the tent. I prayed for her. She's not a Christian. She stopped vomiting and she was in the line at 12 o'clock. They warned us if we were not in our places at 12 o'clock, because it's too freezing, you can't stand out there, you've got to get moving straight away. Like the cold kicks in, it's brutal. So at 12 o'clock we're in line and we have a guide, 2 people per guide, we're in a line, off we go. First 4 hours was amazing. I just remember feeling so good, we're doing this, then you can't see a thing, you've got your torchlight on, one foot in front of the other, slowly, slowly. And then about 4 a.m, I made the brutal mistake of stopping. So once an hour we stopped for a minute, where you could have a drink of water, and then you kept going. So 1 minute an hour, stop. So at 4 a.m. I decided, I'm so amazing, I've done it for 4 hours. That's awesome. And I'm so proud of myself. And I sat down. because I'm done. I don't need to summit any other mountains. Who am I proving anything to? I don't have to do it. That's self-talk. I've done enough. I'm amazing for 50. I lost 26 kilos to do this. I don't need to summit. I've done enough. I'm incredible. And then Russell, oh, that man. Oh. He like, come on babe, you got to get up. I said, honey, honestly, you go on. You carry the baton. I'm great. I'll go down. I'll be waiting there for you. You'll be amazing. And this went on for about 10 minutes and I'm freezing. I've got guides wrapping me around in layers. I'm shaking. I'm like, didn't even think physically I could get up. But you know, when you think you can't get up, when you think you can't go 1 millimeter further, have the right people around you. Russell got down and he grabbed me by the shoulders, and again, he's the only person that could ever have talked to me like this. And he said, Jen, you are going to get up and you are going to put one foot in front of the other. I will not leave your side. I don't care if it's half a foot. I don't care if this takes us all night and all day, but you are not giving up. You will regret this for the rest of your life. Again, I was so angry at him. How dare he talk to me like that? But I got up and I put one foot in front of the other. And for the next 4 hours, this is all I did. Couldn't even do a foot, half a foot. But that man never left my side. The rest of the team were probably about 500 metres ahead of us. I thought they were miles ahead, but it wasn't. They struggled too. But we all waited for it. They waited for us at a certain peak. And you know, we got to that part and then we moved on and we summited. And that feeling of getting to a top of a mountain that you have trained so hard for was absolutely exhilarating. And my next point is, when you conquer a mountain, take time to enjoy it. Because often after you've climbed a mountain, you gotta come down. And when you come off a mountain, there can be quite a lull. And I didn't take enough time to enjoy that moment because I was so exhausted. But one of my biggest things I learned was, when you're going through things, it's hard work. It's hard sometimes getting up and putting one foot in front of the other. It's hard thinking, will I get to the top? Will God meet me there? Will I actually see the result that I believe I'm going to see? And you do. I've had half a dozen conversations at least with women here, and you have gone through some really tough stuff, or you're going through some really tough stuff, but you have got through, and you will get through. You will get to the top. You know, and when you overcome something, enjoy that moment, enjoy the summit, that feeling of, wow, look what I've done, look what God's done. Enjoy that moment. I know I'm paralleling the physical mountain with the spiritual mountain, but they're really quite the same. Enjoy that moment, but give preparation for coming down. I literally had spent all of my time thinking about how I was going to summit. We spent 8 days summiting and come down in one. I hadn't even thought about that. One day. So we spent 8 days climbing this thing, and then we had to come down. And because of my surgery, we came down a way where it was just all this gravel, basically. So guys are like almost running and like surfing on this rock, which I couldn't do because of my recent surgery. So it took me and my amazing husband, because he did not leave my side, 7 hours to get down. So we started the summit at midnight. We didn't get back till like 3 the next day, and we haven't stopped moving. I've drunk so much liquid and I haven't been to the bathroom once because my body just absorbed it all, and it was tough. And I tell you, sometimes I meet a lot of people that actually stumble on the coming down, It's not the mountain that they have issues with, it's the coming down. You know, because life is like this, isn't it? You know, there's the mountains and there's the valley. And sometimes a lot of us stumble in the valley and we lose track of who we are, and we forget that we just summited an amazing mountain. We forget that God just did an amazing miracle because suddenly we're in another valley. And so I just want to encourage you, be prepared. Like that when you're journeying life, when you're summiting, that's amazing. All that stuff, all that training, all those things that kick in, it's incredible. But man, when you come back down into a valley, it's tough. And that was probably the hardest part for me. It wasn't the climb, it was the coming down. And I want to just encourage you. I know we've been a bit all over the place and we've been on this amazing journey together. We've talked a lot about the different seasons of life. I've shared my personal story. Can we dim those lights a little bit? And those amazing ladies who were leading us before, maybe you come up and do the keyboard for me. But you know, when I was preparing this last part about, you know, the lessons I learned, you know, we can pull lessons out of anything, I believe, in life that we do. And climbing mountains, they're hard work, they're exhausting. Then we get to the top and we celebrate for a second the victory of whatever it is that God's done in our lives or in a family member, and then we come down and we just start going on to the next thing. And I want to encourage you, ladies, take time to celebrate your wins. Take time to celebrate the moments that God shows up and does what He promises He's going to do. But be ready. It's like often, I don't know if you've been to the colour conferences and all those sorts of things, and they're amazing and you feel so filled up and your tank is overflowing, and then you go home and you argue with your husband and the kids are so crazy and badly behaved and the house is a mess, and suddenly that feeling that you had on the mountain soaring with Jesus and the amazing teaching, and then you come down and it's a crash. Life is like that. Like we have these amazing moments, but be prepared for the coming down. You know, don't get caught off guard. It's not about the husband or the kids being messy or the messy house. It's just about you having these amazing moments where God's shown up and you've done something, you've felt His presence, and you've overcome some stuff in your life, and then you go back to your realities. And realities can be hard because we've got to start doing all the things and putting all the things into practice that we've been talking about. And as I prayed for you guys and been praying for this evening, I wanted to create some space that we can just press in and we can believe for the Holy Spirit to move and touch the areas of our lives that we need it, because we all need that. But if you're comfortable, I want us to create some space, but I wanted to just talk and ask you, since we've been hanging out together, what has God been saying to you? Now, we don't have time to go around the room individually and ask that, but I'm asking, what has God been saying to you? I would love, as the worship team's playing, and if you feel comfortable, I would love to pray for you and believe with you for the things that you believe God's saying to you. Maybe it's when I shared my story, and maybe there's parts of my childhood that touched you and you realise you're still a bit raw. Maybe you're stuck and you just haven't been able to move past a point in your life, and you want to, but you're stuck. Maybe as I shared and asked about, are you living the life that you want? Maybe you're at a stage where you know you're not, but you want to change that. Maybe as I talked about life being not being your own, that we're on mission, maybe you've realised that there are some areas of your life that you need to tweak, that you need to go, you know what? I know God has a plan and I know He's got things for me to do, and I want to step into that space. Maybe as I talked a bit tonight and we laughed about climbing mountains, but maybe you're climbing a mountain and at the moment it doesn't feel very funny. It's hard work. And maybe you're like me, you're at the point where you just want to sit down and you just don't want to get up. You want to sit down and you feel like you've done your round. Well, I want to stand with you tonight and say you can do it. You can get up. I'm going to help you stand. And then the women in this room are going to help you stand. We're not going to do this on our own. And so I'm just going to ask you all just bow your heads or close your eyes, or however you feel comfortable. And the first thing I guess I really need to ask, because I don't know you all personally or individually, I don't know where you're at in your journey with God, and you've heard about my God journey, you've heard about my God encounter, and maybe you've never encountered Jesus, maybe this is all quite foreign to you, I don't know. Or maybe you have encountered Jesus, but you know that you haven't been living a life of putting him first. And I just want to ask you in this moment, if you would be brave enough just to signal to me. I'm not going to ask you to come up. I'm not going to ask you to do anything uncomfortable. But if you don't know Jesus, if you don't have a personal relationship with him, and over our time together you've thought, you know what, that's where I need to start. Just like you, Jen, like your moment. I know I need my God moment. And I'm going to ask you to be really brave. Everybody's got their eyes closed, but if you just want to signal to me in some way that that's you, that you know you haven't been living your life for Jesus, I'm just going to give you a moment in that space. If you need to respond tonight, you can just lift your hand and wave at me. And then maybe afterwards I'll be able to sit and have a chat. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. So I just want to say to everybody in this room that, you're walking with Jesus. And I want to ask you, over the last 24 hours, and man, what a beautiful 24 hours we've had. Are there areas of your life that you just want to be brave enough to respond and say, you know what, I need Jesus to help me in this area. I was wondering if the girls that were singing, could we sing that last song that we sang? That would be amazing. Yeah, that would be awesome. And just as we're going to start singing this song, and I just want to encourage you, you can either stand where you are, you can sit. No one's going to ask you to do anything that makes you feel uncomfortable, but I am going to ask you to be brave. If you feel like any of those things that I mentioned have touched you or stirred you, and you feel like, you know what, I think I would love to respond to Jesus tonight, and I want to believe for God to speak into that space of my life, I'd love to pray for you. And I'm not going to ask you anything personal. I will ask if there's something specific you want me to pray for you for. Otherwise, I'll just pray for you. But as the ladies start singing, we're just going to spend the next few minutes in worship. And if you want to come up, or you want to stand, or you want to sit, or you want to kneel, you do whatever makes you feel comfortable. But if you want me to pray for you, I would love to pray for you and believe that God's going to move in those areas in your life. Thank you, Jesus.